What's up guys, today I'm going to be doing a quick review on the 003 Invikta. I actually wasn't planning to do a review on this because I've basically already talked about everything in the Epic review, but a bunch of you kept asking me when I was going to do a review, and I figured it was just easier to make a quick video talking about it than to answer each one individually. So I'm going to give you guys my quick thoughts on the 003 Invikta. Before we do that, if you guys plan to pick one of these up, I do have an affiliate link for Labs products now. If you use code ADV-PB Studio at checkout, you'll get a gift card ranging in size depending on how much you order. I believe if you order a Labs product, you get like a $40 gift card back or something. So if you want to help support the channel, you can use that code at checkout. Okay, so the main difference in the specs of the 003 Invikta is that it now features a longer handle. Originally, I was told it was 5.5 inches, but the website now says 5.35 inches. Previously, the Epic and Invikta shape have always had the same length handle at 5.25 inches. Selkirk is now experimenting and seeing if people prefer a longer handle. This was the entire reason that I was so excited for the Invikta version. I've never found Selkirk's 5.25 inch handles to feel that great for two-handed backhands, so I was excited to see them extend it. I can say that it's definitely better than the previous models, but one thing I do want to note is that I don't think it's as good as Yola's 5.5 inch handles. What I found in a lot of paddles is that the actual handle length is only part of the equation. While these are the same length, the way the neck tapers on the Yola is slimmer than the 003. Because of this, you can choke up even further on the Yola, which makes you feel like the handle is even longer. I've noticed this on several other paddle companies as well, where their handle feels longer or shorter than advertised, and it's because of how their neck tapers. So the handle is definitely a big improvement, but if you're using a Yola and like the length, that will probably feel a little bit better to you. Otherwise, all the specs are still the same. 20mm, weight around 7.7 ounces, and a 4.25 grip circumference. I did notice slightly higher RPM on the 003 Invikta, but that could just be the small variance that I expect in my test. I got 1800 flat on the Invikta versus 1740 on the Epic. I've used this paddle extensively since September, so about 2.5 months of use, and after a retest, I got 1624 RPM on the Invikta. So even after very heavy use, this is still performing great even despite a small RPM drop. One thing people have been talking a lot about lately is how durable is the surface on these paddles, because some people are saying that theirs are completely smooth after just a month, other people are saying it lasts longer. The Power Air for me never really dried up that much even after about 3 or so months of use, and honestly, I think it just depends on the person. I think it depends on the climate you live in, how dirty are your courts, how do you treat your paddle, how often are you playing, and so on. For me, I've been using this 003 Invikta really hard, and I'm still getting great spin. So maybe I'm just getting lucky, maybe I'm not actually using the paddle hard enough, maybe people are using theirs more, I don't know. What I do know is that every grit is going to wear out eventually. If you put this surface under a microscope, you definitely notice less grit on a very well used one versus a brand new one, so it absolutely fades. Definitely don't want people to think that it doesn't, but in my experience so far, it has held up pretty good. As far as control and power go, it is completely unchanged from the Epic in my opinion. I played a few games with its stock and I didn't notice any power increase. I know some people were thinking it might be a little bit more powerful because of the shape, but I didn't notice anything drastic on the Epic versus the Invikta. After that, I just ended up using my same lead tape setup that I used on the Epic for my Invikta, which just helps make the paddle feel more stable, solid, and adds more power. Because, like I mentioned in my 003 review, out of the box, I'm not a giant fan of the paddle. I think it's okay, but it's massively improved with lead tape. I think the additional weight definitely helps with the power and the stability a lot. In that review, I also mentioned that I wasn't sure if the 003 was very good for singles, but it's been my primary paddle for singles and doubles since September. I think it lacks power that other paddles do better for singles, but what I found is that my drops and cat and mouse game were so much better with the 003 than something like the Power Air. So I've really enjoyed using it for singles, but I probably still wouldn't recommend it for most who play singles. I think the additional power for passing shots and keeping your opponent off balance is really helpful. For me, I just found that it worked really well when I needed to do cat and mouse, which was starting to become more of my game than simply just passing shots. So I was okay sacrificing some power to be able to place the ball better. As far as the sweet spot goes, I don't have anything different to report. I haven't noticed it feeling different in any meaningful way. So yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about the Invikta. What I can say is that I've thoroughly enjoyed using it, and it's been my primary go-to paddle anytime I'm going to play seriously and I'm not just reviewing a paddle. I think once you add lead tape, the 003 is a very solid and versatile paddle. I also hope in the future that all of their Invikta shapes will switch over to this, because when I pick up the Power Air with the original shorter handle, it just feels so much worse to me. When you go to do a two-handed backhand, at least for me, it almost hurts because of how I have to grip it and how far out it tapers at the neck. My fingers just feel much more stretched. Having that extra quarter inch, or I guess technically a little bit less if you go based on their website, it just feels a little bit better. If I wanted to get really picky, I would say that I hope they slim the neck so it tapers a little bit better, kind of like the Yola. But honestly, at that point, I'm nitpicking, and I'm not really sure that's going to happen, but I do think it would feel a little bit better if they did that. Regardless, I'm just happy they made the handle longer, and I've absolutely been loving my time with the 003, and I don't really have plans to switch away from it anytime soon. So if you guys were planning to pick one of these up, I can't recommend the Invikta version enough. It has been my favorite, especially over the Epic. The wide body paddles aren't necessarily my favorite, so Invikta gets a big thumbs up from me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to click like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.